I never thought I'd be the kind of man to share a story like this. My life was as ordinary as they come. A decent job in IT, a modest home in the suburbs, and a wife I thought I'd grow old with. Her name was Rachel. We had been married for 10 years, and though our life together wasn't perfect, whose is? We had routines, inside jokes, and a history I believed was unshakable. Turns out I was wrong. It started with little things. Rachel was glued to her phone more than usual, laughing at messages and quickly locking the screen when I came near. She started dressing up more, even for simple errands. At first, I ignored it. I told myself she was just finding new interests, maybe reconnecting with old friends. But when she started coming home late without reasonable explanations, I couldn't ignore the sinking feeling in my gut. Something was wrong. One evening, when Rachel was in the shower, I decided to investigate. It wasn't hard. I knew her passcode. The moment I unlocked her phone, my stomach dropped. Dozens of messages from someone named Ethan. They weren't vague or innocent. Flirty texts, inside jokes, and plans to meet up. My heart pounded as I scrolled further. It was all there in black and white. This wasn't just emotional cheating. Rachel had crossed the line. That night, I confronted her. She didn't deny it. Instead, she tried to justify her actions. "We've been distant, Mark," she said, tears brimming in her eyes. "Ethan makes me feel alive again. You've been so focused on work." Her words cut deep. I worked hard to provide for us, and I thought she understood that. The betrayal was a punch to the gut, but what came next was worse. She insisted she wasn't going to end things with Ethan. She needed time to figure things out. I was still trying to process everything when, 3 days later, Ethan showed up at my house. I was in the kitchen when the doorbell rang. Rachel answered it, and there he stood, Ethan. Tall, broad-shouldered, and exuding the cocky arrogance of a man who had never been told no. The moment I saw him, I disliked him. But what made my blood boil was the way he walked inside without being invited, as if he already owned the place. Rachel looked flustered but didn't stop him. Ethan's gaze landed on me, and a smug grin curled his lips. "You must be Mark," he said, extending his hand like we were meeting at a business event. "I'm Ethan." I didn't take his hand. "I know who you are," I said evenly. "What are you doing in my house?" He laughed. Actually laughed. "Your house? That's funny," he said, glancing at Rachel. I think Rachel would disagree. "Isn't that right, babe?" "Babe. In my house." I felt my fists clench, but I forced myself to stay calm. Losing my temper wouldn't change anything. Rachel didn't say a word, didn't defend me. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just about her betrayal. It was about my dignity. And I wasn't about to let this smug bastard walk all over me. That night, I barely slept. I could have thrown Ethan out, screamed at Rachel, or even resorted to violence. But none of that would fix the situation. I needed something better. Something that wouldn't just put Ethan in his place, but would also make Rachel understand the gravity of her choices. Over the next week, I became a man on a mission. I dug into Ethan's life. His full name, where he worked, his social media presence. It wasn't difficult. People like him loved to flaunt their lives online. He was a real estate agent, always posting about his so-called luxury lifestyle, showing off expensive suits and fancy cars. But as I dug deeper, I found cracks in his perfect image. Negative reviews from clients. Complaints about his arrogance. And most importantly, a massive ego. I also played my part carefully. I let Rachel believe I was too broken to fight back. I acted distant, withdrawn, giving her the space she said she needed. It was all part of the plan. Then, a week later, I invited them both over for dinner. Rachel was surprised, but I framed it as an attempt to be mature, to move forward. Ethan, of course, couldn't resist the opportunity to gloat. He showed up with that same cocky smirk, probably thinking I had accepted defeat. The dinner was tense, but I played the gracious host. I complimented Ethan's success, asked about his real estate deals, and let him ramble. Rachel seemed relieved, thinking I was finally coming to terms with their relationship. She had no idea what was coming. After dessert, I leaned back in my chair and smiled. "Let's move to the living room. I have something to show you." Ethan raised an eyebrow but followed. I turned on my laptop and connected it to the TV. "Ethan," I said, "I've been thinking a lot about what you said about being the alpha." I paused, watching his smug grin grow. "And you know what? You're right. You are the alpha." He leaned back, satisfied. "Glad you're finally seeing things my way, Mark." I clicked play. The video started with a dramatic montage. Screenshots of his negative client reviews, complaints about his unprofessional behavior, and my personal favorite, a clip of him drunkenly berating a waiter at a restaurant. Every piece of evidence, perfectly edited and set to theatrical music. Ethan's face turned pale. "What the hell is this?" he snapped. "Your highlight reel," I said, smiling. "I took the liberty of sending it to a few key people. Your employer, your clients, and the real estate board in your area. You might want to check your phone." Right on cue, his phone started buzzing. Over and over. He yanked it out of his pocket, his expression darkening as he read the notifications. His carefully crafted image was crumbling before his eyes. "You son of a," he started, but I cut him off. "Careful, Ethan," I said smoothly. "You wouldn't want to say something that might be recorded. Like this entire evening, for example." His jaw clenched. He turned to Rachel, expecting her to defend him. But she just stared at me, her face a mix of shock and something else. Respect, maybe. Or regret. "Mark, this is insane," she finally managed. "You didn't have to go this far." I met her gaze, my voice calm. "Rachel, you brought this man into my house. He called himself the Alpha. You let him disrespect me. I'm simply showing him what happens when he messes with someone who has nothing left to lose." Ethan stormed out, his phone still buzzing. Rachel stayed behind, tears streaming down her face. "Mark, I don't know what to say." I stood up, my heart steady. "Don't say anything," I replied. "Just go." In the end, Ethan's career took a nosedive. The real estate board launched an investigation, and several of his clients dropped him. His reputation? Destroyed. Rachel tried to apologize, tried to salvage what was left of our marriage. But it was too late. The trust was gone. I filed for divorce and focused on rebuilding my life. It wasn't easy, but with every step forward, I felt lighter. As for Ethan, I heard he moved to another state, trying to start over. But I doubt he'll ever forget the lesson he learned in my house. I didn't just take back my dignity. I reminded myself of my worth. And if that's not the ultimate revenge, I don't know what is.